Ukraine just did something that's going to change everything we thought we knew about the timeline for military AI. December 2025, a defense startup called Circus Defense rolled out fully autonomous robots that are right now navigating active combat zones in Ukraine, delivering ammunition, food, and medical supplies to troops under fire. No remote control, no human operator with a joystick. These machines are making their own decisions in real time. Now look, we've all been hearing about military drones for years. They're everywhere at this point, but drones have a pretty hard limit. They fly, they scout, sometimes they strike. What they can't do is move with soldiers on the ground, haul gear through rubble, or adapt when the terrain goes completely sideways. That's the gap these robots are filling, and it's happening way faster than anyone predicted. Here's what makes this different. These aren't machines following some pre-programmed GPS route. They're running embodied AI systems that learn and adapt on the fly. They're reading terrain, avoiding incoming threats, coordinating with human soldiers in the field. We're talking about behaviors that defense analysts were saying wouldn't exist outside research labs until at least 2035. That timeline just got shredded. The thing that's keeping people up at night isn't the supply runs. It's what comes next. A robot that autonomously delivers supplies today can be armed tomorrow. A robot that learns to avoid gunfire can be programmed to return fire just as easily. The jump from logistics to lethal force is not some massive technical leap. It's more like a software update. And once that capability exists, militaries are going to use it. That's just how this works. Ukraine isn't operating in a vacuum here. Intelligence reports are showing that China and the United States are both racing to field their own battlefield robots. We're not talking about a future arms race. This is happening right now. The competition isn't about who has more nukes or better cyber weapons anymore. It's about who can deploy AI-controlled machines that operate faster than human reaction time. Which brings us to the really uncomfortable questions. Who's responsible when an autonomous robot makes a mistake? What happens if it misidentifies a civilian as a combatant? Can international law, which moves at the speed of diplomacy, possibly keep pace with machines that make decisions in milliseconds? These aren't thought experiments. These are operational risks that military planners are dealing with today. You'll hear some experts say autonomous robots could actually save lives by removing humans from dangerous supply missions. And sure, there's logic there. But the counter-argument is pretty compelling. Once militaries trust robots with critical logistics, the pressure to push them into offensive roles becomes overwhelming. And when that line gets crossed, the distinction between human judgment and machine execution starts to disappear. What's really striking is how fast this timeline collapsed. Just 6 months ago, the consensus among defense analysts was that battlefield robots were 10 years out, minimum. Now they're operational in an active war zone. And if you look at how military technology diffuses, this is going to spread fast. Think about drones. Early 2000s, they were rare and controversial. By 2010, they were standard issue. By 2020, they were ubiquitous. That same adoption curve is going to apply here. What's a niche experiment in Ukraine in 2025 could be the global standard by 2028 or 2029. But here's the part that should really concern you. This technology isn't going to stay confined to battlefields. The same autonomous systems being deployed in Ukraine can be adapted for policing, border enforcement, private security. We're talking about machines patrolling city streets, making split-second threat assessments without human oversight. The potential for misuse isn't hypothetical. It's inevitable once the technology exists at scale. That's why you're seeing so many analysts sounding alarms right now. Autonomous battlefield robots aren't just another incremental upgrade in military hardware. They represent a structural shift in how wars are fought, how force is projected, and how control is exercised. Ukraine's deployment is essentially a proof of concept that the future everyone thought was distant is actually here. And China and the US are watching closely. Both countries are accelerating their own programs. The competition is just getting started. When these robots get paired with the next generation of AI models, the ones with actual reasoning capabilities, not just pattern matching, that's when the real arms race kicks into high gear. The timeline for military AI just got rewritten, and most people still think this is science fiction. OpenAI says artificial general intelligence is closer than you think, not in some distant sci-fi future, not locked behind a decade of breakthroughs, but close enough that you can already feel it brushing up against daily life. And whether people want to admit it or not, ChatGPT is already giving us a preview of what that future actually looks like. Because this did not start as a bold philosophical idea. It started as a tool, quietly, almost politely. Then it spread everywhere. Since its launch, ChatGPT has turned into something strange and unprecedented. It writes production code that ships. It tutors students one-on-one at scale. It assists doctors by summarizing research and flagging diagnostic possibilities. It helps scientists reason through hypotheses, literature, and experimental design. This is not one domain. This is many. And that matters because intelligence is not about doing one thing well. It is about transferring skill across contexts. Back in 2020, GPT-3 shocked the world simply by producing coherent language. At the time, that alone felt unreal. But GPT-3 could not really reason. It could not see. It could not interact in real time. It was impressive, but limited. Then GPT-4 arrived and changed the tone of the conversation. Multimodal reasoning meant the system could understand text and images together, follow complex instructions, and maintain far deeper context. It stopped feeling like autocomplete and started feeling like thought. Not human thought, but something adjacent enough to be uncomfortable. Then GPT-5 pushed it further. Real-time capabilities, faster response loops, more fluid interaction, less friction between intent and execution. This is the part people tend to underestimate. Intelligence does not just live in answers. It lives in timing, in back and forth, in collaboration. When latency drops and coherence rises, the experience changes completely. Sam Altman has said something that should have landed harder than it did. He said that the ChatGPT people use today would have been considered AGI just 5 years ago. That is not marketing, that is perspective. It tells you how fast the goalposts are moving and how quickly yesterday's impossible becomes today's baseline. Now here is where the story turns forward. OpenAI has laid out a roadmap that feels less like speculation and more like sequencing. By 2026, their systems are expected to function like AI research interns. Not tools, interns. Systems that actively help generate new knowledge, propose experiments, test ideas, and iterate alongside humans. That is a major shift. When an AI can assist in creating knowledge, not just retrieving it, the acceleration compounds. And by 2028, the target moves again. Fully autonomous AI researchers. Systems capable of running meaningful portions of the research loop on their own. Hypothesis, experimentation, refinement. This is what Altman refers to as personal AGI. Not a godlike intelligence ruling the world, but a collaborator that thinks with you. One that adapts to your goals, your style, your blind spots. Pause on that idea for a moment, because this is where tension lives. The definition of AGI is a moving target. Some people argue we already crossed the line. Others insist that true AGI requires surpassing human intelligence across every domain, not just matching it in many. There is no consensus, and there probably never will be. Every time systems improve, the bar quietly rises to stay just out of reach. But definitions do not stop momentum. What is undeniable is the curve. The progress is exponential. Each year, the system feels less like a chatbot and more like a colleague. Less like software and more like something you work with. The friction keeps dropping. The usefulness keeps rising. The scope keeps widening. And here is the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath the debate. You do not need to call it AGI for it to reshape how work, research, and creativity function. You only need it to be good enough, cheap enough, and available enough. That threshold is much closer than most people think. Right now, we are still in the phase where humans lead and AI assists, but the handoff points are shifting. First drafting, then reasoning, then exploration, then discovery. Each step looks small on its own. Together, they add up to something transformative. So the real question is not whether AGI arrives with a headline and a clear timestamp. The real question is whether we notice the moment when we stop working alone, because that moment is already starting. Hold on a second, because this one clip from Miami might end up in every future documentary about the rise of robotics. Picture this. You're at Tesla's big autonomy visualized event, South Florida Energy, cameras everywhere. And right in the center of it all, Tesla's Optimus humanoid robots doing what Musk keeps promising they'll do in the future. Help humans, operate in the real world, hand out bottles of water like it's no big deal. Then one Optimus moves just a bit faster than its balance can manage. A bottle slips, the robot teeters, and suddenly both of its hands shoot straight up to its face, like someone frantically ripping off a VR headset. Only, there is no headset. There's nothing there. Water bottles scatter, the robot collapses, and right in that moment, a lot of assumptions about Optimus collapsed with it. This wasn't just a normal robots fall sometimes moment. That hand movement exposed the secret Musk has been dancing around for more than a year. Optimus isn't autonomous yet. It's still teleoperated. A human backstage wearing VR gear makes the motions, and the robot copies them in real time. That sudden gesture was the human operator removing their headset, not a machine making its own decision. And everyone in robotics recognized it instantly. Now let's back up. This Miami event, called Autonomy Visualized, was supposed to showcase the progress of Tesla's robots. Musk has positioned Optimus as the future of Tesla as a company. He's repeatedly said these robots will eventually do laundry, walk dogs, maybe even teach kids. He's floated numbers like $10 trillion in future revenue. He's claimed Optimus could be worth more than the entire Tesla car business combined. He's pitched millions of robots working inside Tesla factories by the end of 2025. And he said normal people could buy one for $20,000 to $30,000 as soon as 2026. That is the scale of the vision. But what we actually saw in Miami were robots that could hand out water, until the teleoperator made one tiny mistake. Then the mask slipped. And that's the story. Because this isn't the first time people caught the strings controlling Optimus. Go back to January 2024. Musk posts a video of Optimus folding a shirt. Social media freaks out. Folding laundry is famously tough for robots because fabrics don't behave predictably, except viewers noticed a human hand reflected in the frame, moving in sync with the robot. Musk later admitted the demo was assisted. He didn't lead with that detail, though. Then October rolls around. Tesla's We robot event. Optimus units walk, serve drinks, play games with guests in a controlled showcase environment. It looked like a giant leap forward, except when someone directly asked one robot if it was autonomous, the robot said no. It acknowledged a human was still helping. A tech blogger later confirmed that several robots were being controlled by humans wearing VR headsets behind the scenes. Yet Musk never mentioned teleoperation in his presentation. The story he tells is that real autonomy is here, or just about to be. He even posted a kung fu video of Optimus and insisted it was pure AI, not remote control. And now, after the Miami fall, we're left asking, is he being misleading, or is the internal communication at Tesla so fragmented that even he doesn't know? This matters because Musk ties Tesla's valuation to this robot. Investors are betting billions on the idea that Optimus will be more important than cars, that this is how Tesla reaches a $25 trillion market cap, up from $1 trillion today. That humanoid labor will transform the global economy faster than electric vehicles ever could. But if the robots can't autonomously pass out water bottles without a one-to-one human operator, that future isn't remotely close. And the competition isn't waiting. Boston Dynamics keeps advancing mobility and manipulation without playing it off like magic. Figure AI is already deploying robots in BMW factories where they operate without humans puppeteering them in the background. Agility Robotics is commercializing warehouse bots that are trained, not teleoperated. All of that is real today. Tesla's advantage is supposed to be AI, especially with their fleet of cars collecting data for neural networks. Musk keeps saying that data pipeline is what will push Optimus ahead of everyone else. But so far, that edge hasn't shown up in public. Instead, we have Optimus falling over while copying a person yanking off their headset, because the autonomy Musk keeps promising is still missing in action. There's another layer here: trust. Musk promises full self-driving every year. Robotaxis on the road by 2020, then 2021, then 2024. And those robotaxis still don't exist. Investors and fans keep granting extensions, but eventually confidence erodes. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore. And honestly, none of this means Tesla won't get there. Humanoid robots are coming. The economics of general-purpose automation are too powerful for this field to stall out. There will be machines washing dishes and stocking shelves and doing repetitive factory tasks. A decade from now, a version of Optimus might quietly be everywhere, just like Musk predicts. But when timelines keep slipping and each public demo turns out to be more Wizard of Oz than Jarvis, it changes how seriously we take the next big claim. So here's the real takeaway. That 5-second glitch in Miami didn't just knock a robot over. It knocked over the narrative. It showed us that for all the glossy talk about autonomy, the reality of Optimus in 2024 is still a very expensive puppet. Take that for what it's worth.